Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Executive Officer's role in Whole Community Integrated Risk Management. I am BJ Jungman. I'm the Vice President of the Great Lakes Division of the IFC. On behalf of the Great Lakes Division Board of Directors, we'd like to thank you for attending today's session. Got a few logistical items to cover before I turn over the webinar to our presenter. First of all, I'd ask that you find the chat feature in the upper right-hand corner and introduce yourself in the chat with your name, your fire department, your role, and what drew you to this session. Also, please know that audio is being broadcast using VoIP technology through your computer speakers or headset. Please make sure your speakers or headset are turned on and the volume is turned up. Audience microphones have been muted. In the upper right corner of the screen, you'll find the chat and question and answer menus. You're encouraged to share comments and submit questions for the speakers. So if you have questions, please go to the Q&A and submit a question. It's easier for us to manage that way. Following the session, you'll receive a link with today's recorded session via email, along with a brief survey. I would ask that you take a few moments and fill out the survey and let us know what you think about your experience. It's super helpful for us to get feedback and help determine what our future webinars may be and enhance your experience. So at this time, I am very excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Mike Weller. I got to know Mr. Weller since I went through his community risk reduction class at the National Fire Academy in the Executive Fire Officer Program, which was a very positive and career-changing experience for me. Mike is a training specialist and program manager for the National Fire Academy Community Risk Reduction Curriculum. He's a tenured NFA instructor, course developer, and respected national leader in community risk reduction. He led the development and execution of an internationally recognized community risk reduction strategy in an urban setting. He was a recipient of the 2018 Dr. Ann Phillips Award for Leadership in Fire and Life Safety Education. And he was recognized in 2022 by Fire Rescue One magazine as one of the most influential fire service leaders of all time, which I can't agree more with. So at this time, please help me welcome Mr. Mike Weller, and I'm happy to turn it over to him for his presentation. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Chief. Can you hear me okay? And do I have control of the slides now? Just checking. Yep. All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome. I'm broadcasting from the National Emergency Training Center in Emmitsburg, Maryland. That's the home of your United States Fire Administration, National Fire Programs, where the National Fire Incident Reporting System resides, the NFA, and of course, the Emergency Management Institute. I'm very glad to be with you, those of you from the Great Lakes region. I'm pleased to say here the temperature is 73 degrees, bright sunshine, and tomorrow we're getting some of your weather, so it'll cool off. Understand BJ's digging out from about 2 feet of snow, so we'll take this weather while we have it. So there I am 12 years ago, and that's what I look like today here at the National Fire Academy. I've been very fortunate. I've enjoyed a wonderful career in the emergency services. I began as a volunteer in the mid-70s. I'm still a life member with that organization, I'm proud to say. I worked for 30 years in the city of Hagerstown, Maryland. I started as a shift firefighter, was promoted to company level officer, and then promoted up into the fire marshal's office, where I led the community risk reduction programs for 22 years. I've been a National Fire Academy instructor since 1996. Helped craft many of the current CRR courses that we offer across the country. And I've been steering the ship as the training specialist, overseeing the NFA CRR program for just about 5 years. And I'm very humbled and honored to be in that position. So what we're going to cover today is the concept of whole community integrated risk management. And we'll chat about that here in just a moment. But as we get our heads and hearts around that terminology, we're also going to look at the role of you, the executive officer, in that process, and how to build both internal and external support so all the pieces are in place to make some sustainable impact and then ultimately outcome. A big thing for the executive officer to do is look at the community's acceptable level of risk. And that all comes down to your decision makers. And the bottom line is how much resources are we willing to invest in the process. And really, I like to view the executive officer when I teach an EFO, you're a risk management consultant. You're not the boots on the ground person doing the fall prevention projects. That was a job that I did earlier in my career. And that's a job of station-based folks and those in risk reduction bureaus. You are the risk management consultant for the community. And that's a very hefty responsibility. So I have watched the pendulum swing in all different directions throughout my career. I got to tell you, back when fire prevention and public education was referred to as pub ed, I hated that because I felt it diminished the credibility of fire prevention and education in that process. I mean, as you know, if you had any risk reduction training, it takes 5 E's, being education, engineering, enforcement, economic incentives, and emergency response to bring everything together. And, you know, fire prevention was the topic in the 70s and 80s, but then we switched more towards an all hazard mitigation type approach, which I wholeheartedly agree with. We run way fewer fires, as we all know, than we used to, and we are running way more EMS calls, and just all the societal trends that we're dealing with are pretty astronomical, and we're still that respected industry that we can ask and we will respond to do just about everything. As we move through the 90s and 2000s, we look more at CRR being strategic, meaning that going after very specific, targeted, demonstrable risk in our community that we could do something about through an organized process. And then now we've graduated to that whole community integrated risk management arena. And the key word in this is people. It is simply looking at the big picture and drilling down and getting people involved in the planning, the execution, and the evaluation of our risk reduction efforts. And, this all comes out, the whole community IRM comes out of the FEMA doctrine. And you're going to see that as you progress through your careers. The word community risk reduction is falling under that umbrella of whole community IRM. And that's embedded into our current EFO program, our managing officers program here at the NFA. And, the words that you see in the third bullet there really ring home. A village approach to fostering a safer, healthier, more prepared, and resilient community. And if you would enroll in our EFO program when it reopens for engagement, you're looking at truly that program promoting a safer, healthier, more prepared, and resilient executive officer, organization, and their community. So the easier part, as you saw in the teaser that was out broadcast nationally, the easier part of risk management is the technical component. And I know you look at this model, if you've never seen it before, it's like, oh my goodness, what is that? Look at the top. It is nothing more than a 5-step planning model. Getting ready, assessing risk, planning on what you're going to do strategically, executing the plan, and evaluating the results. The activities there under each one are simply steps to get you to the outcomes. And, from an executive officer's perspective, that first block under getting ready, understanding risk reduction, is huge. And that's where we still see a lot of gaps with officers coming into both our managing officer and executive officer programs, that they are solely focused on that tactical response mode and not really considering getting upstream ahead of an incident to either prevent it, mitigate it, and if it does happen, lessen the severity and the frequency. And truly looking at accepting personal responsibility that, look, I'm a chief officer. I am responsible as leading my department and the community toward a safer place. And under that assessment, the only thing I really want to bring up under that is I feel of all of them there, your technical people, like what I did in my first career, they're handling most of the action steps, their activities under assessment. But that one next to the bottom in the yellow, the defining the acceptable level of risk, that is a job of the executive officer to be engaged with decision makers in that conversation. And that's where the whole community integrated risk management comes in. Well, the harder part of this is the adaptive challenge piece. And please don't throw me under the bus for candid conversation, but I had the pleasure of facilitating in one of the executive classes a few weeks ago. And we had a young lady that is likely to be the fire chief of a very large metropolitan county on the East Coast very soon. And as we went through, built through the class, she started referring to the adaptive component under building support, meaning that you need to build organizational equity, build organizational culture for risk management, engage your community, build community equity. She called it the damn yellow line. And that is very well said. It's like the minister once said, I had the perfect church until all of you folks showed up in the congregation. That arguably is one of your most challenging things. And that's what this presentation in total is going to be about today. So you look at me and say, well, what gives this guy credibility to talk about whole community integrated risk management? I spent, as I said, 30 years in Hagerstown, Maryland, a city of 40,000, very blue collar, stick-built construction, many blocks upon blocks of wood frame homes, inches from one another. And this was a journey for us. It started with the fire department doing fire prevention, into risk reduction, into engaging the community in more all hazard type incident preparation, prevention, and response. Long story short, the video you're going to watch is truly a mark of that 30-year collaborative effort between the fire department and the community, gauged around community outreach. And a month before I stood down in 2010, Hagerstown was recognized as the first in the state of Maryland, and I think the 13th or 14th internationally recognized safe communities from the World Health Organization. And our community remains very proud about that. They're still doing everything that you're going to see on this video that was done then, that started in the 80s, that's still going on now. And many of the students that come into the NFA classes just look, and when they watch this video, think, really? You were doing this in the 80s? Well, yes, we were, and still making it happen. So I'd like you to take out a sheet of paper, and you're gonna chronicle my career from the my early 20s up until my early 50s, but mostly the younger part of my career. And I've tried to shut this video down and take it out of EFO and managing officer several times. And the instructors and the subject matter experts that review curriculum won't let it happen. They say, look, it might be a little bit dated, but it's timeless. It is absolutely timeless that they need to study you as a youngster in the fire service and pick out what were the mistakes made by a young and naive Mike Weller. And also, for you as executives, what are you going to do with a mic? And I really want you to think about this as you watch the video. You've got those hard charger folks, those superheats, that if you don't harness that latent energy, it's going to be expended somewhere else. And in this day of portability with personal investments and retirement packages, you could lose people very easily to other more progressive departments because they want to do good things. Also make a note on what turned the ship. It's kind of subliminal, but what got it right in our city? Because I nearly train wrecked everything with my lack of insight and aggressive nature. What was the role of leadership? What did it take from the executive officer to make happen or allow happen what you're about to see? And then to wrap it up, what's the proof? What do you see that both that fire department and the community did that proved that risk reduction and integrated risk management were truly institutionalized? So with that, Nan, could I turn it back over to you? Oh, that's outstanding. Video will run about 40 minutes and then I'll come back on.
With a central population of 40,000 and an urbanized population of 120,000, Hagerstown, Maryland ranks as one of the fastest growing regions in the country. In the past few decades, the largely blue-collar workforce has transformed into a diverse and modern business community. The Hagerstown Fire Department has transformed as well. Like many fire departments across the country, Hagerstown has established institutional community risk reduction as a core value within its organization. The path to this fundamental change in its culture wasn't easy, and there's a lot to be learned from the mistakes that were made. Hagerstown's story begins with a catalyst, a young firefighter who had the right idea but didn't have a proper plan or the support of his department.
I've known Mike Weller for well over 20 years, and I think he exhibits what we see in a lot of folks that we would put in that catalyst category. That spark plug, that person in the organization that's going to be the champion for community risk reduction. And when we talk about community risk reduction, we're talking about fire prevention, we're talking about preventable injuries, we're talking about natural disasters. So there needs to be a person in the organization that's going to spearhead this. I think without a question, we have to look at Mike Weller as being that catalyst.
I have been fortunate to have lived through an entire cultural evolution in community risk reduction in the city of Hagerstown. When I joined the department in 1981, we did a small amount of prevention. We steadily grew through the years, and now to see that prevention gets an entire week, or community risk reduction gets an entire week of attention in our new recruit training academy, our new firefighters, it is just part of their culture that every day we are going to do something on risk reduction. All I ever wanted to do was become a firefighter. From the time I was 4 years old, my parents put me on the first rig, and I joined the service in 1974 as a volunteer. I tried for several years to become a career firefighter, and I could not make the cut in the metropolitan areas because of my poor eyesight. Fortunately, after 3 tries, I was hired on by Hagerstown in 1981. I started in October of 1981.
First initial impression of Mike, typical new hire, like we all was one time, full of all kinds of ideas, excitement, just raring to go.
It was such a great feeling to be able to come in and get paid to do something that you just love doing. But I became very bored with just sitting in a firehouse about a year after I came to work.
Times were different back then. Pay wasn't as good, and in order to augment our pay, we had part-time jobs. And when we came to work, we expected to relax and not have to be out on the street providing there wasn't a fire.
We were more a reactionary fire department than a prevention-oriented department. The volunteers, we're a combination department, the volunteers organized a community-wide survey whereby we career firefighters took the volunteers out on the rig and they were searching for data about how many homes had smoke alarms and other baseline information. And I was just struck by the fact that the career staff sat in the fire rigs and the volunteer staff did the work. And I just thought, well, why can't we as a department get going on a smoke alarm program? And we had one at the volunteer house where I belonged. And so that's where the idea really originated from.
After reviewing the results of the volunteer survey, Mike realized there was a real need for a smoke alarm program in Hagerstown.
Less than 50% of the homes in our city in 1981 had smoke alarm protection. And it led me to go to the former fire chief, who was very receptive about considering the possibility of starting a smoke alarm program where we gave them away so long as it didn't cost the department any money. We published a number in the local newspaper, we had it on television, and in November of 1983, our department started to give away free smoke alarms.
Mike began to voluntarily spend time working on prevention out of the Hagerstown Fire Marshal's office. When the Hagerstown Fire Chief retired, Mike found an unexpected ally in the new chief, Gary Hawbaker.
I was one of the first people that Chief Hawbaker interviewed when he was hired in 1985. He took the time to speak face-to-face with everyone, and true to Mike form, he introduced himself. I was in the Fire Prevention Bureau that evening when he walked in, and he asked me, well, what are we doing in fire prevention? I heard you were on fire for the topic, and do you have any ideas?
And so we had a nice long chat. You're always, when you come into the department new, you're always looking for that energy. And Mike definitely had that energy I was looking for.
I had this vision of, hey, Chief, let's for the right thing to do, let's go out and go to every house in our city and see if they have a working smoke alarm, and if they need something, we'll put it in for them. His approval of going door to door with that smoke alarm program, I felt validated as a firefighter. I felt important. And more than anything, I was just elated that we, the Hagerstown Fire Department, were going to go out and do the right things for people in the community. And I just assumed that all firefighters would be very enthusiastic about that because inevitably we would be saving lives.
This whole program started out as a voluntary program, and then after it was sold to the new fire chief, he said they work for me and they'll go out when I tell them to go out, and that's the way it's going to be. Well, that created friction for Mike.
Mike took it upon himself to start this program. He went to the fire chief and got permission and didn't consult with his fellow firefighters and went full speed ahead, totally out of control.
And I knew there would be some resistance, but it seemed like the right thing to do. We knew that we had a community that was 60% renters. We knew we had a fire problem. We knew we had people dying, and we weren't reaching them the way we wanted to with conventional media, newspapers, TVs. And so the best thing was to go to their door, beat on it, and say, we're here to help you.
I did not have the insight to think about our organization's culture, organizational determinants. I was a 22-year-old young person full of enthusiasm, drive, and from my heart, let's just go out and do the right things for the community. I never gave it a thought what my peers would think.
A lot of reasons they was upset. Number one, Mike had minimum years of service out in the field with the guys in the suppression field. They didn't feel that he proved himself to a lot of them. They didn't know him. They didn't know how good of a firefighter he was, and he wasn't accepted yet as a firefighter. And then all of a sudden he comes around this fire prevention program, this new kid on the block, and then he's going to give orders and be our boss. Caused a lot of friction,
We thought we would humor Mike, and we would he would have free reign for a while, and after a year or so, things would come crashing down and we could go back to the status quo.
After the chief approved going door to door citywide, when we were in the planning stages, it never occurred to me to look to see how many homes we were going to go to in 1 year. And that number turned out being 12,000. And I clearly remember the chief saying to me, "How long do you think this will take us?" And I said, "Oh, chief, probably just a couple of months."
And my God, I mean, the guys were on the streets for months, and rightfully so. They were upset.
It was a total disaster. A 3-month program was supposed to have all the support of volunteers and help to go door to door in the city of Hagerstown. Went from 3 months, started in June, and we was clean into November. And it's dark outside. We're walking down dark streets in uniforms with badges on, and you knock on a door and they say the cops are outside, and it just wasn't comfortable feeling. Plus, it went forever. The friction, everybody just wanted to string Mike up after that.
How could you possibly do this to us? You're wronging a brother firefighter. To other firefighters gave me the silent treatment. They didn't say very much.
When Mike wanted this program, they should have sat back and reevaluated and said, maybe we ought to get some of the senior guys from each shift and sit down and get some input, because Mike has to sell it to the senior people first. Because if the senior people balk at it, the junior members are going to follow what the senior people want to do. And that's where the problem was. No communication, so the friction was, and it just boiled up to a volcanic eruption there, early on in the program.
Although Hagerstown's firefighters overwhelmingly disapproved of Mike's methods, a local tragedy made everyone aware that the smoke alarm program had real value.
We did our first citywide canvass in the spring of 1986. During that canvass, at the time, our first one, what we were doing, we were going door to door just like we had done in 1981. And we were logging if people did not have, or whether they did or they did not have a smoke alarm present. And then what we would do was we would go back, we would make an appointment and come back and reinstall the alarms. And I will never forget this, nor will our staff. We had gone to a home that had 3 children. We knew that they did not have smoke alarms, and we wanted to make an appointment to come back, and it had been convenient a couple of times, and then we couldn't catch them home. And unfortunately, during that time period, they had a fire, and all 3 children died in that fire.
Got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, left for work. At 7 o'clock, the man told me my house was on fire. My wife was at the hospital, and didn't know enough about the kids. I went out to the hospital, and she was burnt really bad. And I asked them where the kids were, and they said they didn't know. I left the hospital, went back over to the house, and found out the kids were dead.
And that was a landmark decision for us, that from that day forward on, what we would do is we would be an instant point of service, where we would, if we found out there was a deficiency, we would take care of it right then and there.
The need for community risk reduction in Hagerstown was real. Mike and Chief Hawbaker realized mistakes had been made, but continued to move forward.
One of the very early things that Chief Hawbaker did was he pitched the idea of creating a full-time prevention position to council. And it took him through the political process about almost, 3 years to have that position come to fruition. And amazingly enough, no one else applied for it.
One of the things that Chief Hawbaker recognized is he had this tremendous talent in Mike Weller. Well, what he really needed to do was to be able to rein it in. And so Chief Hawbaker thought that it would be best for Mike to come over to the National Fire Academy and to take some classes.
I learned at the National Fire Academy how to lead a risk reduction process. And I came back from that experience armed with a brand new plan. I went out and I spoke with everyone, and I sincerely apologized. And I've done that many times. I've had to through the years. And I told them, look, I'm very sorry for my initial arrogance and for my lack of insight. And I asked them, I said, what are my shortcomings? They said, well, one is certainly you need to talk to us. And if you want us to do something, we need to understand why do you want us to do something and what's in it for us. What is this going to do? Is it going to reduce incidents? Is it going to get us more staffing, or are we going to get more salary? How can we use it as a political leveraging tool? And they were right. There's no free ride. There's got to be something in this for everyone.
The catalyst for community risk reduction has to have insight into the organization. They really have to understand all the dynamics that are taking place in that organization. And if you're a new person coming in, you may not fully understand what that culture is in your organization.
Mike realized that institutional support from his fellow firefighters was a battle that he couldn't win through the chief's office. The place where hearts and minds needed to be won was where his fellow firefighters were freely talking about his programs.
The kitchen is where the coffee's served, and at shift change, you have 5 or 6 guys coming on, same amount going off duty. You meet here, you share ideas, you criticize, you tell stories, you solve all the world's problems. Things are accomplished at this table.
What you need to do is to look around your organization and who are those formal and informal leaders. It may be your union president, it may be a person who's been in the department a long time, who's highly regarded. And so what you need to do is to find those folks and explain to them what you're trying to do. And to get their support, you have to talk to people, you have to listen to what people are saying.
And the firefighters on the shift sat there and told Mike like it was, Yeah, number one, you got to be out there with us, Mike. If you're not helping us, you're not showing that you're going to be a part of this program, and just go set up behind the desk. You know better than our fire chief. The next time around, Mike's out there right with us. He's hanging that smoke alarm. He's collecting the papers when we're done. He's staying up late at night, compiling all this information, and he proved that he really wanted this program to work. Because it took it from the man at the top, the leader, and that's what position he was in. He was supposed to lead the firefighters hanging these smoke alarms. He finally developed into a leader and showed he cared. And he cared about the firefighters out in the field, and that made a big difference.
Once Hagerstown embraced the process of community risk reduction and over time started to see tangible results, and those results have been reduction in deaths, reduction in injuries, reduction in property loss, less responses, the firefighters really understood why their work was important in the community.
I think the guys did it enough, and they seen that the program was working and seen what the rewards was. Then they started going out, and didn't mind doing it. In fact, they enjoyed going out, a lot of them. And that was the big thing there again, was the communication and the public support, and all the support we got from the public, the publicity, and actually the program actually worked and saved a lot of lives in the city. It made our job easier in the suppression field because it made the public aware of fire safety.
I think those failures made us stronger. I think they made us realize where our weaknesses were and the things we could do better. So, don't expect to walk into a project and expect it to go all right. And if it doesn't go right, just go, hell with it. That's it. I'm not even going to try it. It can be fixed if you want to fix it.
With the support of both his chief and fellow firefighters, Mike's smoke alarm program became an accepted function of the Hagerstown Fire Department.
Right after that is the survey. Please fill this out for every house. What I do here is I run the smoke alarm program. It's called SAFE, Smoke Alarms for Everyone, and we install smoke alarms for residents in the city of Hagerstown who need smoke alarms or need upgrading of smoke alarms that are 10 years or older.
One of the things firefighters suggested was stop the heresy of going to, it ended up being a couple years later up to 14,000 houses per year. They said, if you keep trying to do this, we're going to take you out. Let's figure a way that we can make this more palatable. So the magic number became 4,000. Every May, we do half of our downtown zone every year because that's where our greatest frequency of incidents happens. And then in addition to that, 2 census tracts.
They're not very excited about going out. This is not their favorite thing to do, obviously. Once we get them out in the community, they actually really enjoy it. It gives them an outreach to the people. I think that once they start talking to the people, they realize how important prevention is.
What we're trying to show here is that these are skills, and just like we learn how to tie knots and ropes, that this is just another skill, and that we really need to help them develop that confidence to go out in the community and do good work.
This is the example of when we finish surveys at the end of the night, it actually makes us feel very good, because this was what we would consider a high-risk location. An individual in his 60s, smoker, high risk based on his use of prescription medications for his pain therapy. This would not be a reliable smoke alarm in the event that he would have an incident in his home. So again, we feel very, very good about taking that out tonight and replacing it with a very reliable smoke alarm that we can count on. That I think really hit home the most are when we see kids or the elderly that are in a tough situation, and we respond by trying to do the best we can, educating them in the short time that we have with them right there in their home.
It's a fulfillment to the community that I work in and serve. A lot of the homes that we go into, the residents sometimes are trying to give us donations, like the typical volunteer fire department, thank you for your time, here's a donation for your services. And it's a great opportunity for us to be able to go into our neighborhoods and show them that the taxes that they're paying for in the city is providing them a service.
We advertise in several different ways. TV, we do commercials, although those are pretty expensive. Billboards, we found billboards have been a really big help to us because a lot of people see them, and a lot of people are driving. You sit at a red light, you're going to look around and see them. We advertise on radio. We do several different radio stations, one geared towards older adult, which has been great for us. Then we'll do a radio station that has a little bit of newer music to reach a different population. We also advertise in church bulletins, and when we do our outreach in schools, we send home a letter with the kids for them to call us if they need smoke detectors to their parents. And we also advertise by word of mouth. Once you start the program, they're going to tell their friends, their family, and we get a lot of phone calls through that.
Working smoke alarms save lives. Hello everyone, this is Mike Weller.
Mike even takes the time to work a weekly shift as a DJ on the local radio station, personally reaching out to the community about prevention.
Free lithium smoke alarms that have batteries that last 10
I was
years.
listening to my radio, WJEJ, which is our local station, and I heard Mike Weller, who was one of the announcers, or he was talking at the time and saying that we could come to your house, install smoke alarms that would last for 10 years. So I decided, well, this is an opportunity. I called the station, and Mike told me to call Megan, his partner, and I called her, and it wasn't but 2 days later that they came by and installed a smoke alarm in the hallway and one out in the back room. It's a wonderful thing that the fire department will come to your house and install a smoke alarm to help them as well as us, so that if we have a fire, they can get there faster.
One of the biggest things you can do for community outreach is make community partners. These partners can do health fairs. They do all kinds of events that you can be invited to. There you can do fire prevention. You can talk to families about how to prevent fires. You can also get sign-ups for smoke alarm installations. Usually the population that are at these events need our services, and it's a great venue to reach a lot of people for free. Also, through those community partners, you can get referrals to homes like the Commission on Aging. A lot of older people don't really trust people that they don't know to come into their homes, but if they hear about it from these agencies that they know and trust and refer them to us, they're more likely to let us come into their home.
With the institutional and community equity Mike and Chief Hawbaker were building, they saw an opportunity to start Children's Village, a program that would reach into every home with school-aged children in the county.
This is our annual Kids Alive Fest at Children's Safety Village. We open the facility once a year to the entire community, so everyone gets the opportunity to experience the life-saving educational activities that happen at this nonprofit center.
Okay, do you have a fire evacuation plan in your family? Okay,
Yeah, we do.
y'all have a meeting place to meet?
Right
Okay,
at the tree.
okay, by the tree. Okay, what do you do when the fire department arrives?
Children's Safety Village is a 5-acre injury prevention campus. It was built by and for our community. The idea was actually brought to us in 1985 by the local telephone company. They took it to the Maryland State Police. The state police then brought together a coalition of stakeholders, and we decided to set out on a mission to build an injury prevention center that would serve our grade 2 population. It took us about 5 years to secure the land free of charge from the Board of Education, and then our local builders and contractors worked together and they collectively donated all of the building materials and the labor to build the initial phases of this project. At Safety Village, second graders receive a 2-day comprehensive injury prevention curriculum. One day features exclusively on fire safety. The next day focuses on overall injury prevention to include traffic, pedestrian, bike, and water safety.
And over the years, I think Local 1605 has donated, I think, over $70,000 to Children's Village.
That is a shining example of institutionalized support. Our fire department began using burned homes as neighborhood classrooms in 1988. And this home that we're in was relocated by the firefighters to Children's Safety Village. The concept is if we have a fire in a neighborhood and it is a significant fire, we will ask the occupant of the home and the owner if we can come in a week or so after the fire and invite the neighborhood and allow them to come in for a very structured interactive tour. This house is a home that we used for one of those neighborhood tours. After the tour was over, the property owner was trying to decide, well, what do we do with this house? Could you take it maybe to the fire department and burn it up for training? And that's when our firefighters collectively decided, no. We have a permanent home for this. Let's take it to Children's Safety Village. We sat there for a couple of minutes and we talked about, well, could we really move a burned down house clear across town? And, you know, my colleagues from the fire department looked at me and said, Mikey, we're firefighters. We can do anything.
Well, members of the Hagerstown Fire Department jumped in to help, and we had to dig a foundation. We had to set the house. We had to brickcase the house, so we blend in with the neighborhood and not have a controversy there. And everybody jumped in, and that's how it got done.
One of the ways that you can be successful in prevention and getting buy-in from your firefighters is ask them what they would like to do to contribute. So have them tell you, instead of just automatically assigning duties to people that may not be a good fit for them. Show them what you're about, what you're trying to achieve, and what's a way that they feel that they could contribute best. So the big thing is just ask.
The dollhouse was built by one of our station firefighters who really didn't have an interest in teaching the second graders per se, but wanted to make a contribution to the overall cause of Children's Village. And he and his colleagues built this dollhouse over a period of several months. We can pipe smoke in from a smoke machine that's located in its basement, and it really reinforces the concept of why you need working smoke alarms on all levels of the home and why you need to have a prearranged family escape plan. We have about $600 in materials invested into the dollhouse. The labor was all free, and overall it's worth in the value of our curriculum, and our impact of the curriculum is priceless. I am just so in awe of them that they have always had the can-do attitude, from moving a burned home to helping to build the center to building all the educational props. They've never said, we can't do this. It's always, what do you want? Where do you want it? And just get out of our way.
Mike was able to demonstrate that Children's Village had tangible results.
A shining example of the outcome that's been produced by Children's Safety Village is 9-year-old Tanner Shoemaker. Tanner, a year ago, attended our program, and because of what he learned at Children's Safety Village, he was able to help save his mom's life. Mom had a medical emergency at home, and she fell face first down a flight of stairs, and Dad was kind of frantic at the time, and Tanner took the situation very calmly. He went to the telephone, summoned emergency assistance, helped perform emergency medical dispatch instructions, and his mom is alive today.
My mom blacked out and fell down 13 stairs. I called 911, and then the 911 center told me the instructions. Then I did what they said. I learned how to do what I did at Children's Village.
And that's about as strong as proof as you can get that you had people walking and talking as a direct result of the resources that you put in on the front end to prevention.
Where you read or you hear where, not only here in Hagerstown but in Washington County, where the young child, made a life-saving call by calling 911 or remembering to stop, drop, and roll. We do it every year. We actually honor these children in this county for that.
This is a House of Delegates resolution. House resolution, be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Dylan Derborough in recognition of your life-saving action and recognizing a life-threatening situation which has now earned you the induction into the Children's Village Life Safety Hall of Fame.
While statistics showed Hagerstown's programs were having a real impact, the firefighters saw how they were having an effect in their everyday interactions with the community.
And that's where the rewards is. They're just the average person coming up off the street and thanking us, for doing a nice demonstration, or, they remember. And that's where it always is, your PR and the people remember and they respect the firefighters.
Unfortunately, we have a culture that is so much response-oriented, and we really need to kind of take a step back and recognize that we're on the same team, that we have prevention, but we also have an important role in suppression. But far too often in the fire service, we really focus on what I would call the event stage. So most of our training is really directed at what we do during the event. And I would just like folks to pull back a little bit and look at all that time before the event, the pre-event stage, the prevention stage, and all the things that can be done to help prevent and mitigate some of these terrible things that happen in our community.
And a key to a lot of it is the newer generation of firefighters coming in. They're already better educated and understanding on fire prevention. A lot of them's taken in high school, even locally owned schools. When they come aboard, they think more of fire prevention. Everybody wants to go out and fight a fire, but in the back of their head, they're all for going out and knowing what fire prevention can do.
I love doing fire prevention. There's nothing better than helping the community, and ultimately it helps us as firefighters.
Oh, absolutely. These are my neighbors, I want to make sure that I go out here to take care of them, and to take care of them, I have to keep them from getting hurt. And when I go to their house, I at least want them out.
You get to see the benefits whenever you go out and you have a fire that's detected early, and we have our early response, and you know that makes a difference. It reduces loss of property and also potentially life. So that's when you know that you're actually making a difference.
I have been a supporter of fire prevention. Several reasons. One, because it works. We have the statistics to prove that. And it's the right thing to do. And we're very proud of our efforts and our successes.
If you don't have a good fire prevention program, more people are going to die, get injured, and more property is going to burn down. And that's where Hagerstown is ranking up there amongst the top as far as fire prevention. Because you look at our dollar loss and our, injury and life loss in this city is low.
The numbers prove that Hagerstown's community risk reduction programs are working.
Our community of about 40,000 people, it's a blue-collar community, 60% renters. We had 14 fires. of estimated damage of over $5,000. And I always tell my officers they estimate fire loss too high. But that's an amazing figure. Out of 2,000 incidents a year, we had 14 that were, quote, serious fire damage. And I don't know what else you can attribute that to, other than the efforts of this department and the support of our councils. You know, obviously, we can say we want to do things, and we can do a lot, but it takes the support of your community and your politics.
You know, we brag about the decrease in fires in our city. Our fire prevention people have done such a fantastic job. They go into the communities on a regular basis. We do smoke alarm checks. People welcome us into their houses. We have one of the fastest response times in the nation. We have great qualified firefighters and a great department.
I think for me, as I look back in 25 years, I think it's been what we've accomplished as a department. And it just isn't the education part. You know, the code enforcement part is so important. And I'm just so glad we have our own fire marshal's office that is looking out for the firefighters when they look at building plans, when they look at how communities are going to be constructed with roads and so forth. The investigation part, fire investigation. You know, we have quite a high rate of arrest when it comes to arson, somewhere around 70%, which is extraordinary in this country. And then you have the buy-in of the firefighters that finally decide, you know what, going out on that street for 2 hours each night during nice weather isn't only helping our community, but it's helping us. You know, firefighter safety is so important today. Well, what better safety is than to never leave that fire station? You know, does it get any better than that? So when you talk to me about safety, you better talk prevention.
There's a lot to learn from Hagerstown's example. One of the most important lessons is where to begin.
Fire chiefs across this nation, I think, are really looking for reasons to do community risk reduction. But what we need to show them is why we need to be doing it. City managers, council members, mayors, they all understand about numbers. And so if we can provide for them the data that supports why it's important by identifying what those leading risks are in our community, then that certainly goes a long way with convincing fire chiefs across this nation that we need to take action, and we can't just sit back and wait to be called.
If a department is just getting started in prevention, the absolute foundation is to learn where you are right now. You have to identify your local risks, the sequence that's leading to those risks. That will naturally move into prioritizing what your risks are based on frequency of occurrence, how many people are getting hurt or being killed, what it's costing, and you can identify then the resources that you will need to get the job done.
Another lesson is that the support of the chief is not enough for these programs to succeed.
Chief has put the brakes on me so many times, and he said, you know, Mike, you can see the goal line, you're running with the ball, but you forget that there's a whole other team of people with you. And I think if I could make any recommendation to someone coming up into the field of prevention, communication and understanding organizational culture and determinants are essential. If you don't have the support of the team, you are going to flounder.
Building organizational equity takes time, it takes patience, it takes commitment. That's probably one of the biggest things that separates us from people in suppression. They're used to that immediate gratification. They go on a call, and within a few minutes, a few hours, it's really taken care of itself, and there's an outcome. But when you're involved in prevention, you are in it for the long haul. and it may take you years to see the difference in your community. So with proper planning, with good organizational support, with building that community equity, you can achieve these things, but it's going to happen over time.
The National Fire Academy has taught me and continues to teach our firefighters the tried and true process of how to orchestrate successful community risk reduction for an entire community. And I can say after 29 years in Hagerstown that we have an incredible amount of outreach, impact, and now tangible outcome to show that we have followed that process taught by the National Fire Academy.
We can't afford to lose people and property to events that are predictable, preventable, and understandable. So I think what prevention does is it really does give you and your organization a good feeling that they're really out there making a difference day in and day out, and it can affect the culture of the fire service. It affected the culture of the Hagerstown Fire Department, and it's evident in everything they do that the safety of the community comes first. And when the community's safe, the firefighters are safe.
Hey, Dan, can you bring it back? Thank you. BJ, can you copy?
I hear you, Mike.
Okay. Do you have a hard stop here at 3, or can I have about 8 to 10 more minutes, or should I bring this to closure?
You can run over. We're good.
Okay,
People
cool.
can jump off if they need to, and they can access the recording later.
Okay, outstanding. Okay, so I will be brief, ladies and gentlemen. You know, if you enroll in our slow down, Mike, Executive Fire Officer Program, one of the things you have to read a book, Leadership on the Line by Heifetz and Linsky. And BJ did that, Chief Jungmann, in his EFO excursion. And it teaches you to get up on the balcony. And that's what I failed to do. I didn't understand our culture. And I don't blame those guys from, at the time, being upset. The culture was you came to work at night, and you could rest. And it took me years to get it. And if I would have just had that insight and social emotional intelligence and that balcony view, things would have gone a lot better. And I think that came with maturity. I wasn't a good communicator to start with, but one of the biggest things, our department didn't understand what risk reduction was. We went full speed ahead with a swag, totally out of control. And once I really learned the process the right way by classes here at the NFA, and then they trusted me to lead them, things turned around really, really fast. The social power base, as you well know, legitimate, coercive, reward, expert, and referent. Fortunately, I understood them very well through my education. I never had to use the coercive, get the hammer out or the stick. The carrot worked much better. And truly, once the folks really understood what this was all about, that it became data-driven, and also that I applied what's called the social identity theory of leadership. Look that up when you get off this webinar. All that means is, in essence, is there is a lid for every pot. You study how groups form and why they develop their own special interest. And the job is to work toward building an inordinate culture where everybody, risk reduction may not be their favorite thing, but everybody's at least going to agree that they're going to do some part, not only within the organization, but the community at large. Another thing that helped us was the very thorough risk assessments that we did, starting with our natural environment, the built, what was put there by man, the people part of it, and then our response metrics. And once our personnel really got that, to be able to look forward to, okay, look, these are our risks that we should be focusing on. And then working really hard to get in front of the event from happening, get to that pre-event stage upstream, and utilizing causal chain analysis. this plus this plus this resulted in this problem. And getting in the middle of it, it's like, you know what, if we get in front of this thing, we may not have the incident to deal with. We're safer, the community is safer, and it improves the quality of life. And that is causal chain analysis there, exhibited on a heating fire. I'm going to go past that. I will share this slide deck with you. Again, you saw our rudimentary census tract map. That's all been replaced now with a predictive analytics program. But nothing, it's clear back to the days of the colored pens in a map. The process still resonated very well with our staff. And the proof of how well we did was the community engagement. We put our money where our mouth was. I had a very strong budget dedicated to prevention. We had more than most departments have today. In a department of 100 people, we had at one point in time 9 of us working full-time in a risk reduction unit. And we really learned that if you want to engage the stakeholders in the community, they better bring wisdom, wealth, or work to the table, because they're going to need to join us 100% in that quest for a safer community. BJ, for the sake of time, I'm going to bypass our classes here. I was going to explain our pathway. I'll do it just briefly. Folks, you have at your disposal right now, if you're thinking, you know, my department could really use some boots on the ground education of what strategic risk reduction and integrated risk management is. There's 2 online self-study courses, Introduction to Strategic CRR and Introduction to Risk Assessments. Google those. They are 800 series courses here at the Academy. It takes your staff about 4 hours to complete it. They're asynchronous. You can start it and stop it as your leisure. But we're having every NFA student that has not taken them, take them as part of their pre-course assignment coming to the NFA. For you folks at the executive level, we just finished our risk reduction curriculum review last week. I am pleased to say our existing leadership strategies for CRR course, it is dated, but it is going to receive a massive makeover to make it more current and relevant. We are also going to do a major overhaul of our Managing Effective Fire Prevention programs for new fire marshals. So that is forthcoming, and I will send you information through the chief on that. We do have vacancies. All you need to do is, if you're interested in attending the NFA, go online, do a Google search, National Fire Academy course vacancies, and that site will come up immediately. And there are some vacancies, a few, left in our upcoming leadership strategies courses. One big misnomer is that, does it cost me anything to go to the NFA? Not at all. The only thing your department's out is a couple $100 meal ticket. You're reimbursed for all your travel costs. You can come more than once during a year, but you just have to pick up that second travel stipend. There's pre-course work because we want you to be ready to hit the ground running. And we also, through your state training agency, I can tell you with a risk reduction, all of our courses can be offered regionally, and you apply through the state training or your state fire marshal's office for that. All right, so BJ, I shall turn things over to you, or Chief, if you may have any questions regarding the presentation. By the way, the video lives on the USFA YouTube page. Just go there, look under videos, and you'll see Chief Hallbaker's face. I do wish to give acknowledgement to Rich Jordan. Rich, you saw in the yellow shirt, he did a lot of the interview. He was our chief shop steward for the union. And a couple years after this video was produced, Rich contracted fully compensable non-small cell lung cancer. He was not a smoker. They believed it was a at-work exposure, and he passed a few years ago. I'm also very sad to say that night before last, we lost our dear Chief Hallbaker. Chief had not been well for about 5 years. He's never been right since he contracted Guillain-Barré late in his career. They can't prove it to line of duty, but ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you The toxin that we are not exposed to is the cancer that we don't get. So, Chief, I turn it back to you if we have anything in the chat room for me.
Mike, thanks for the time, and thanks for your sharing your expertise, and all of our condolences to you and the family of the chief. It's always hard losing a great leader that you respect and has affected your career in such a positive way. I don't see any questions in the queue, but if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the question answer piece there. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find Mike's email on the USFA page. And I know he's always willing to ask questions. He's always lended a great ear to me and been a great mentor. So without any questions, I'll just close it out and say thanks to Mike and for his time and expertise. And on behalf of the Great Lakes Board of Directors, I want to thank you for attending today. The PowerPoint presentation and a PDF file is in the handout section. You'll receive a link with today's recorded session via email along with a brief survey. Please let us know about your experience. Thanks for taking the time today. Again, thanks, Mike, and stay safe out there.
Thank you, Chief.